its relationship with technology. The role of art in our lives is to make us ponder, to make us think a little bit. And CREATECH is our gateway to discover the limitless opportunities or possibilities, challenges and rewards that lie ahead in the world of creative innovation. For today, well, Porto is still setting up. Okay, for today we have a great panel. Tanya will moderate this panel. Tanya Almeida Santos she's a founder and director of CRU Creative Hub. And we are very glad to host Helena Muniz here in Lisbon, president of the European Association for Machine Translation. André Fort, he's head of business and development for the arts at UPTech, will also be with us. And Francisco Teixeira, co-founder and CEO of Moo Arts. I hope he's still a bit late. Hopefully he can arrive soon as possible to get into the panel. And João Vasconcelos, executive director of Canal 180. I will be your host for tonight, and I will give you the ecosystem briefing as well. So this has been a very busy time for Startup Portugal this last weeks, and the next ones as well, at least until the Web Summit. And we have this event today along with the Digital with a Purpose Global Summit, which is in Lisbon as well. We own our own stage with our curation for the 3 days of the summit. I think there are still tickets available, so get into our website and look for the promotion code to get in the venue. Next month, in October, we will have a Road to Web Summit program for startups. So 125 startups to represent the Portuguese ecosystem in this next Web Summit. We will, at Startup Portugal, we'll be hosting our boot camps to prepare these entrepreneurs, founders, to help them with their pitches and their strategic approaches for their startups to get in the Web Summit, how to navigate in the Web Summit, and to take the most out of its participation. As you probably might know, the vouchers for startups and vouchers for incubators and accelerators, the results are already out there. So the notifications for the winners are on the way, and we are very happy with the results. We have more than 800 projects backed with this program, and almost 15 million euros were distributed along with the startups and incubators. So very nice. In the next weeks, we will have some news about the second phase of this program that will be announced really soon. We would like to invite you also for the second Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum, which will take place next week on October the 4th in Estoril. This event aims to spread knowledge about creative ocean initiatives and study new ways to build a sustainable ocean economy by promoting new cross-industries alliances. Startup Portugal will be hosting an interesting pitch challenge, so be there. Be sure to get there. Next, we will have the warm-up pitches. We will start with Porto. So I call to the stage Cult. Round of applause for this guy, please. And of course, we have to thank our partners. So Porto City Hall, UPTech, 351, Community, Easy at Celina, and also this venue, Ferroviário. Go ahead. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, okay. We all know this feeling, right? We are really, really stressed from a long day of work. We just want to go home, take a shower, and enjoy, chill and relax watching Netflix. But then this is when it gets really stressful because we have to decide what to watch amidst endless options. And that's one of the reasons why we created Cult. Cult is a community for culture lovers to share, save, and recommend amazing movies, TV shows, podcasts, songs, and books with friends. The reason why we created Cult is because right now there is something called the paradox of choice or choice paralysis. There are so many options available in so many streaming platforms, and every day we have thousands and thousands of new things to watch, to listen to, or to read. And this is caused because of the streaming overload. So it's getting harder and harder to decide what is worth our time. Thinking of that, we created a platform where people can recommend to each other amazing content, and they can also save and organize in their digital galleries. As you can see, we are a website and also an app, and there is also a possibility to check where the content is available, so you can go directly to the streaming platform. So this far, we have 8,000 total accounts and 1,000 monthly active users, and we are reaching now 30,000 content recommendations. There are a few, let's say, apps and websites that are close to Cult because they do something similar, but they're only focusing the US market and they only have specific types of content. Cult is the first one to have all the 5 types of content and to focus in the Brazilian and Portuguese market. We already received $200,000 to develop the startup, and now we are about to receive $500,000 from Interledger Foundation to develop a digital wallet to monetize human creation of content. So this is how it's going to work. Basically, we have 3 types of monetization inside Cult. One is the monthly donations. If you see someone that you like very much, their recommendations, you can choose to donate to them in a monthly subscription. You choose the amount. We are working with micropayments. And after that, the donation is sent. It's going to be really easy to use, and you are supporting this person in a monthly basis. The second type is the one-time tipping. When you see a recommendation that you like so much that you want to reward this person for such an amazing recommendation, again, you choose the amount, you send to the curator of the content, and it's done. The third one is the monetized gallery. So you're going to have a lot of galleries in your personal library, and you can choose one of them to put a paywall, and you can charge people to unlock these amazing contents that will be available in this gallery. Uh, Once you have some money in your wallet, we can withdraw it via Pix. Pix, it's like the MBWay in Portugal, but in Brazil, it's a payment method that is instant and free. And we're going to connect in our digital wallet the Interledger protocol, which is a payment method worldwide that allows people to transfer money between each other with Pix. So by creating this solution, we're going to make easy for anyone to send and receive money worldwide to Brazil. This is the team that will develop this amazing technology and this solution for the curation of content and to make possible for people to monetize curation of content. A special thanks to UPTech. Andrea is probably here somewhere. Thank you, Andrea, and UPTech, all the community, and also to Elena, my partner, who is always here with me. And that's it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Patrick. And now I call to the stage Pedro from Bayar.
So good afternoon. easy to play. Okay. Oh, he's missing the logo. Okay. So we are by augmented reality. We create digital environments that connect people, places, and people, stories, and places. These places can be museums, temporary exhibitions, or even cities. On these projects that we make, the first question that we make is, what is the story? What is the story that we're going to tell? And this is one of our pillars for creating the projects. The other two is people, the people that are inside of the stories, the outside that will receive this story, and the ones that want to present the story. The spaces that will define the way that we're going to tell this story. Most of our projects use augmented reality as a technology. We can say that we are specialists on this technology. We have 8 years doing this, and most of our work is made inside of in the company. We produce the content, so we create the 3Ds, the animations, we create the apps, we create interactive video mapping, use augmented reality, virtual reality, and the technology needs to have a context. So we designed the spaces, we designed the context for this technology. Most of our projects are for museums, like this one, the Islamic baths in Lolé. We have António Tomás Pires, that is archaeological museum in Elvas, and all the museum was designed by us, the environment and the technology that we see. We have Coa Museum that was also renovated by Bayar, and or for example Ernest Corrodi, that is a project that we made in Leiria, and for example we create this augmented book. When we say interactive video mapping, this is what kind of interactive video mapping are doing inside of the museums, inside of the exhibitions, creating this kind of space where we flip the pages and the content appears in the white paper. Or finally, for example, on this interpretation center, where we explain how to do wine, the wine like Romans did 2,000 years ago. So we have people that are inside of those stories that explains these little stories that we have here. And this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pedro. And now I call to the stage SA Studio in Porto.
Hi, is this working? Perfect. Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Startup Portugal, for the invitation and UPTech for the recommendation. My name is Tiago Sá. I'm an architect and founder of Sá Studio. And in praise of today's theme of the talks, rather than speaking 3 minutes about our company, I'll show how technology actually saved our creative business through COVID. As soon as COVID struck, we lost a few projects we had in Portugal. We had to look further away to forward-thinking countries, namely Iceland, that didn't put on hold their economy. we saw there was a competition open for a kindergarten, and we couldn't visit the terrain. So technology number one, we sent drones. Number two, there was no Teams or Zoom set in place by then. So all the coordination, all the design workshops, we did via WhatsApp. We submitted our proposal to the best detail that we could, and we won. Actually, our local architects without masks receiving a nice bouquet of flowers, and we were trying to drink champagne through our masks. If you're wondering the role of technology, we are inside that iPad getting our award in Iceland. Um, Unlike Portugal or many countries, Iceland is very inclusive. After winning, first meeting, not the mayor, not the VIPs. Actually, the VIPs were the future staff and the future tenants, so the kids that will be using this kindergarten. They cannot read plans, they don't understand sections. We had to come inventive, technology, 3D virtual tour, augmented reality, QR codes within minutes. No parents had their phones because the kids were just running around with the phones and jumping from playground to playground. We use parametric design tools as a technological part on a daily basis to further develop our projects, generate multiple iterations, striving for the most sustainable projects that we can, building integrated modeling so we can coordinate projects from Portugal while they're being done in Iceland. So our vision from the competition actually is now becoming a reality, and we're hoping that by the end of this year, the kids can move in there. We continue working in these countries. Next competition, we did also there, civic center on a plot that was due for private housing. We challenged the brief. We proposed this as the nicest place in town should actually be a public space. We got a nice praising from our mayor here. Instead, we would prefer to get some invitation to do some of our public work in our hometown. We continue now in a bigger scale, working with future of sustainable cities, both in Iceland and some projects all over the world where technology allows us to reach any place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiaxa. Thank you. Now it's time for our talk, and I call to the stage Tânia, Helena, João Vasconcelos, and unfortunately Francisco Teixeira is not in the house. He texts me saying that he's coming. Hopefully, not on time, but at Helena, come to the stage, please. At least he can, maybe he can make well, not on time, but maybe later. So Tanya, I'll give you the stage and the microphone.
Thank you. I will. Please join. So don't make this entrance like a king. So I will start to present myself. My name is Tânia Almeida Santos. I'm founder and director of Creative Hub. And I would like to thank this invitation to moderate this session and congratulate all the partners on this initiative. Startup Portugal, UPTech, of course, and Câmara Municipal de Porto, and 351 community to put together these sessions that I think they are very valuable. It's the first time I participate, so bear with me. Let's see if I do it correctly. We have some guests over Lisbon. So today, as already said, we will have maybe we'll have Francisco Marques Teixeira if he actually makes it to the place. But if not, we have the amazing Helena Muniz that is over there in Lisbon. Helena Muniz is a chair of Ethics Committee of the Center of Responsible AI, also president of the International and European Associations for Machine Translation. We will go and talk to her very soon. João Vasconcelos, here by my left, is the founder and executive director of Canal 180. and a name that apparently here in Porto a lot of you know, André Fort. That is the head of business development for arts in UPTEC, the Science and Technology Park of the University of Porto. I will start to make a round of very superficial questions to our guest speakers, just for our audience to have a little grasp of what these three individuals do in their lives and what they have in connection with these CREATECH subjects and the cross innovation and the topics of creativity, technology, and innovation. I will start with our guest in Lisbon, Helena Muniz, and I will do a small introduction that I stole from their LinkedIn profiles. What else? And then Helena will have the chance of develop a little further of what she's doing. But as I told Elena, I forgot to say that besides the position of chair in the ethics committee in the Center of Responsible AI and also president of international and European associations for machine translation, she's also a professor, assistant professor in the School of Arts and Humanities and in the University of Lisbon. And her background is rooted in modern languages and literature. She is graduated from the School of Arts and Humanities at University of Lisbon and also received a PhD in linguistics. So, Elena, for starting this conversation, I would like to ask you, it will be interesting, super interesting to know a little bit about your path from this more traditional humanity and arts background, and now how you make your path and the choice that brought you to the study and discuss these topics of machine translation and ethics and responsibility. Can you tell us a little bit about it, Helena?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Lisbon. Good afternoon, Porto. Thank you for inviting me here. Is this working properly? Yes. So this started as a student, a literature student, who was studying Portuguese, Brazilian, and African literature. Then I got the taste for linguistics, and then even more because I was working a lot at UNESCO with engineers. I wanted to know what they were doing with the data I was providing. So basically, I wanted to know how the computer took that data and put it into a product. And that was my main curiosity, to go to the technical university and do a speech and language processing PhD. I was very tough. I was the only linguist among the engineers, and usually the teachers would say, besides Elena, because she's a linguist, does anyone understand the transformer, Fourier, or whatever? So it was like that, basically. And working with my colleagues from engineering and speech language scientists, I got this taste of how we can be creative, how we can put language into a computer, and how we can work on that, adapting to communities, cultures, languages. So bringing back my cycle as a student of literature. So trying to combine the two paths. My parents usually say this is very hectic and chaotic. It possibly is, but it's very enriching as well, because you have both the humanities and the technologies. Recently, since I was pushed to Unbabel as a linguistic consultant by a great friend of mine, the CTO, João Graça, I started working also with machine translation. I came from speech and then I had machine translation. So João needed someone to assess the quality of the models, and he pushed me basically and literally to that field because I knew nothing about that field. And I enjoy it so much that I started talking to other communities internationally. And today I have the immense pleasure of learning a lot in these communities with translators, industry, technology providers, with everyone with different skills, and trying to be a facilitator of the communication between those communities. More recently, and Baby is very involved in the Center for Responsible AI on creating 21 products that have ethically aligned design in these products. I will explain more in a bit. And the idea is to include ethical values, the ones we have as humans, to these products, so they can have social good and impact, like we saw in the pictures in a few moments ago. So there's basically my ethic path to be here today.
Okay, thank you so much, Elena, for this brief introduction. I'm sure that raised a lot of questions already, like what's behind this and what's the process, and but we will come back to you to explore a bit more about this subject. I would like now to present João on my left. João Vasconcelos is the founder and executive director of Canal 180. And as stated in his LinkedIn profile that I stole again, say that João is graduated in economics. That is something that I didn't know, and has dedicated most of his work experience to marketing and communications. He started in telecommunications, in telecommunication industry, and he moved on through advertising, brand development, and marketing strategy in several sectors before it came to the point in 2010 to create what is Canal 180 today. So in 2010, he won the first prize in the creative industries Serralves and Unicer Competition Entrepreneurship Award with the project OSTV, and that is open source television. So, João, Canal 180 is a channel focused on the culture and creativity. It's targeted to the younger audience and creators among the world. And its collaborative approach was and still is today a non-conformist and innovative model for this for its industry. My question is, can you explain us a little bit first what is Canal 180 for those who might not know, but also how you envisioned back then Canal 180 to have this collaborative model and to grab and gather all the scattered content that was out there. And how is now Canal 180 developing, evolving, and adapting to this new wave of technology and trends of digital content distribution at the moment? If it's too long, you can slash the questions in parts. Is it connected, the mic?
Is it connected? Hi. Hi all. I believe we're talking mainly to entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So it's a long question and a longer answer, but I'll
We
try
have
to make anyhow useful for you, not just closer. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so yes, Canal 180. It was first of all, I really studied economics. I'm bad economist and even worse entrepreneur. So that's the initial disclaimer. And what I think related to technology, that the founding idea of the Canal 180 was OSTV. The name of our company is Open Source Television. So was the idea 10 or 15 years ago that the thing was really the second revolution of the internet, the 2.0 revolution, where the internet meant or start meaning connection between people more than the traditional connectors, which were the traditional media. So once people were connected to each other, everything changed, and that's the main force behind the project that we did. Was trying maybe the last television channel. It's the 180, it's the last slot, so we're not really into the audience or not really trying to be a massive broadcaster and have millions of audiences. Is really an artistic project to try to test and tries to be as much as we can, thought-provoking on what are the driving forces, and most of them really at the last decade are mainly technological in their roots because of the algorithms and everything that it's put on what we do all day, because everything is digitalized. So we started with the content, and we try to develop content about artists and creators and cultural institutions. But in the end, we really like to question what is really going on, and technology is bringing us most of the questions. More recently, artificial intelligence, but for the 10 years that we've been trying to figure it out, and some artists have interesting questions like, should internet users create a union like a labor union so we can reclaim or claim for our rights and our right to privacy and so on? And these are ideas that sometimes are crazy ideas because they're artistically formulated, but it's really how we as humans can be ahead of the technology, and governments are deciding for us.
Yeah.
So I think it's part of our, in abstract, it's part of our mission to do this. And I think for me is what makes me happier in my project, that I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. And we're really not in the scaling of getting millions and millions of audiences, but more to questioning. So I think that's briefly.
Yeah. So in the end, you are highlighting also the voices of these creators and artists that are also having an opinion and saying and questioning this role of the events in tech development lately. And you are also highlighting and bringing these discourses to the table, right?
Yeah, with the risk of sounding very old, but it's really fascinating how fast these 10 years went from we're really very excited and kind of amazed to experimental the functionalities of the social media platforms. But it was very quickly when we became a bit suspicious or critical. We, and I think everybody, really feels that, oh, why I'm spending so much time in Instagram and so on. And I think that's kind of what at our days is more important, that art can bring, because 10 years ago, again, was much more to experiment. Let's try to use this algorithm to create art, or let's try to use this data input and create some visual thing. And that was exciting, but we're really at this moment, I think we feel we're a bit distracted, or just really playing with new stuff. And now it's getting more serious, and probably Elena has a lot more to say about it. Fortunately, we have Elena.
Yeah, let's see. Thank you, João. It's at least it's like in a nutshell what Canal 180 is doing so far. So passing on to André, and that you all know. André is the head of business development for the arts in UPTech. And UPTech has several poles. One of the poles is Baixa, UPTech Baixa, that is focused on creative industries. And he acts also as an incubator in this field for the University of Porto. Some of the roles of André, I assume, because we know each other and we visit each other a lot, is to nurture a community in UPTech and support that community of entrepreneurs and startups and creators and artists in their entrepreneurship journey. Something that we are assisting here because we are seeing the startups presenting their pitches and thanking Andrea for the support in their journey. So at UPTech, Andrea, you have everyday contact with these projects, ideas, people that are willing to create something new or develop what they already have. they are basic up to something and creating something in the creative industries sector. But we also know that cross innovation is not always cross innovation not always imply the use of tech or digital based products or services. And so I would like to know if you can highlight some of the most promising startups or projects that you've encountered, maybe in UPTech realm, but maybe outside of all that community as well. And how and why do you find those projects innovating in the creative industries, not just by the tech side, but maybe for the business model side?
Well, well, thank you first of all, but I think it's not only focused on creative industries because for all my life I kind of learned that creativity takes as a huge role in whatever we do, you know. And even when I was working at Startup Portugal back in another life, the then president of Startup Portugal, a startup, if you don't have a brilliant developer, a good guy to a clown, you would say something such as a clown to put on stage and do a pitch, and a proper designer to actually convey these ideas properly and clearly to the larger audience. So even in that sense, having this empathic approach to entrepreneurship and to technology is something really important. So yeah, I believe that creativity in general, and this is why cross innovation is so interesting, and why I believe that UPTech has such an interesting role to play, is the ability to bring new technologies to creative so they can disrupt, and on the other hand, the opposite, to add some empathic ways to approach technology for engineers and so forth, you know. And that's the type of projects that we are looking for currently at UPTech, and we expect them to look for us as well, you know. That's why, for instance, we take so much interest in what Cult is doing, because they are disrupting a way of empowering creators of content, which is something that, for instance, Patreon is trying to do, but has left out some other people who are not just creating content per se, but also curating it. You know, so this is actually an interesting approach to a new economic way of empowering creators. You know, and also to those who are actually passing on good ideas, and it goes for pretty much everything. You know, we just recently onboarded an architecture studio who is just focusing on neuroscience to develop their designs, which is actually really interesting because...
Can you tell again, developing neuroscience for?
No, they're bringing neuroscience into their approach on project design, you know, so instead of thinking architecture as a function kind of thing, function oriented, which it should be, it adds next layer of functions, which are KPIs, which their designs are compromising, you know, or not compromising, but committing to, which is interesting, you know. So these kinds of approaches are really interesting because it allows us not only to how we can expand normal forms of artistic expressions, you know, because this is what happened when you start using AI models to create music, or you start thinking of maybe bringing normal CNCs into sculpture and trying to create a product out of it, you know. So these kinds of approaches are really interesting. And I kind of got lost in all of this. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. No, completely. I guess that sometimes it happens in any industry. Sometimes we focus on the tool to create something because we want to explore the tool to create something that we don't know what. And sometimes you are more focused on the process or in the end result, and you go just for reach out for the best tool to reach that result. And either way, it can be an exploration for reaching out new products and new services and crossing different sectors. And
yeah, and more than that, just actually be more holistic in how we approach developing new things, you know. And I mean,
A simple example of how this might play out is that we would not have a tablet or an iPad without Arthur C. Clarke and the original 2001 Space Odyssey. You know, it's when they were first kind of predicted. You know, a creative somebody was just writing a book and making it into a movie. I actually thought about a device that now is part of our lives every day. It wasn't exactly an engineer who did it, you know. So having these possibilities of crossing ways of thinking about stuff, I think it's essential, and that's where disruption actually takes place, and that's where innovation actually comes into place. And as at UPTech, we actually have all the tools to make it happen, because we are working in a cross-sectoral way. We have technology and we have creatives, and we just trying more often now to bridge them, you know, and to make sure that they are working together and they have a way to approach each other and to create new things. That's that's pretty much it.
I seize this moment of Andrei saying about crossing and putting people together to highlight the importance of places like UPTech as a third place for entrepreneurs to be, and for creatives to be, and technologists to be, and this community to be. And also like places like Selena also building that, like Crew. So all these co-working spaces, maker spaces, incubators are really places of encounters and serendipity just because people from different background, different interests, but will of do something, they meet each other, and sometimes magic happens sometimes. So that's my take on this, because I'm you know, interest part of that of that conversation. But maybe let me ask if in Lisbon something changed in the panel of speakers. I mean, is there Francisco? No, Francisco. No worries.
Not yet, yeah.
Not yet, not yet. So
He's on the way. I don't know if he can make it. He's on traffic.
okay, yeah, I can talk by him. I can say what it was. I'm kidding. Francisco also was an interesting part of this panel, also because it was picking some loose ends of this conversation, even regarding the neuroscience, and also picking up with some topics with Elena Muniz. But let's move to Elena and ask her that. Given your extensive involvement in these subjects, Elena, in the ethical considerations in artificial intelligence, could you share some insights on how is being discussed that AI can positively contribute to fostering creativity and innovation in cultural, but still maintaining these ethical standards that we are discussing about?
Yeah, that's a big challenge, because there's already studies showing that 70% of what exists today of AI applications have positive impact. On nature communications, for instance, they show that 70% of what is being produced, obviously it was before ChatGPT and large language models were having this boom, but we will discuss that. But there's 70% of positive benefit. There's also 30% of very negative benefit. And how we balance this two is the big challenge right now. So we know, for instance, that large language models like ChatGPT is just an example. It could be Bard or Llama or whatever. They're very powerful at the moment. They can help a lot of people doing several tasks that were impossible before or quite scarce before. But there's also a need to be very conscious that these models have mainly a male voice, because for decades, the data were gathered by men to men, and they're basically industrialized countries, so not all the cultures are there. Women are less represented, children even worse, teenagers, let's not speak about it. Elderly people are not represented in the models. And when I say the models, I say speech and language, both ways. So for decades, the model was a male from industrialized countries providing data. So if you ask a model to give you a translation for Portuguese of a president, it will certainly give you a male president. If you ask for a nurse, it will certainly give you a female nurse, because the models were trained with our bias for all these decades, and the output are biased as well. So the power relationships were mainly focused on male. That's why Ursula von der Leyen was always the male president, Ursula von der Leyen, in these translations of these models. If you ask for DALI to represent a very intelligent, bright man, it will always be a white man and not representing all the cultures of the world. So this is the problem. We need to align these models with, for instance, the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, so we can have better societies. And taking some keywords from Oporto, like citizens and empathy, we need to reinforce human empathy, and we need to enforce activity from our citizens, because ethics need to be in this product. We're not representing all the languages. The most industrialized languages are represented. Low resource languages are not, for instance, because they have not the same economical value as other languages. There's also the gender bias on this data, aged bias on this data, and we don't want all the people in the world, all the cultures in the world be westernized. There's much richness in our planet than just the Western view of things, and we need to put this in the models. And I don't think this is an easy task. It's not for sure a quick one, but we need to start feeding the data, start feeding better data to obtain better outputs. So all the citizens, all of us, are represented in these models, not just America, Europe, or China, or now more recently with Falcon also Arabia. We need to represent all parts of humankind. And this is not there yet. And there was another keyword, empathy. These models do not have empathy. And there's several accidents already caused by these models, by misusage of these models, for instance, or chatbots or other systems. And we need to prevent and anticipate these risks. And when I say we need to prevent and anticipate, it doesn't mean that the ethics will control everything and will stop innovation. That it's absurd. What we need to think as citizens, as entrepreneurships, as yourselves, right, is how to embed these values in the products. And this is what we're doing. So to give you an example, right now we're working on a product that it's called cultural transcreation. And the idea is to adapt because you need for customer support agents that talk, for instance, 80 language. That's impossible. No human knows 80 language. So how you empower or assist that person to talk those language, but without flattening that culture to your own view as a Western. It's a big, big challenge. So what we're doing right now in this product is adapting with generative AI, the models, to have a Korean view, a Chinese view, a Japanese view. And they're different. They're not just Asian cultures, they're different. They have their idiosyncratic traits. And if they're not in the models, they're not represented. That's basically it. So ethics need to be there to assist, to guide, to help, but not to stop. It's the other way around. It's not something like a race between ethics or innovation. It's either how we can create a new generation of AI products, including those values and representing society.
Thank you, Elena. And what about you're saying that we need to reshape, to adapt the models, and what about our own adaptation as humans to these models? And we as entrepreneurs also will have to have these insights and ethics in us to use the tools the best we can for the good, let's say.
Exactly. That's also a problem. because there's the part of us as entrepreneurships, and there's also the citizen. And the citizen needs to be informed of everything. All of us need to know why a system is there, anticipate things, know about it, to see how this will impact our lives as citizens. So there's this strong plea at the moment that there's need to be literacy on these systems. Even engineers working with the system sometimes don't assess the outputs the way they should, or don't have the same care with the data treatment or data assessment they should. And there's this view that is very rooted in our entrepreneurship community. The user should only be listened at the end of a product, not in all the steps of the product. So if the product is for the user, why not align with the user, their needs and expectations, and include those in the product? I think we're generative AI, there's also the problem of not being idiosyncratic enough, because the content is too templated. It's great if I have to write the same all the time, or I can ask ChatGPT to write for me something, but it will not be my tone of voice, it will not be Lena writing that message, it will be fully corseted to a templated message that everybody will be bored with that, and it's not my DNA there. So there's also a task of how we can comply this. This is very useful in our lives in so many tasks, but how can I maintain what it's me in those systems? And this is a huge task. So we use this word customization a lot, but I don't think we're really customizing to the user's needs completely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That well, I think one of the most common discussions when we talk about, especially about AI, is this dichotomy about how we are going to deal with that, how this can, including ChatGPT and other tools like DALL-E or Midjourney, are substituting some creativity, let's say, and it depends also on how we are using these tools. But I would also like to ask João, in this case, if because I think a lot of people feels this as a threat, in especially creatives that are not able to follow up all the speed of these developments, and feel threatened by this development of technologies. Do you, in this journey between 2010 and now, you probably watch and observe so many trends in the digital world and this distribution of content. Is there any moments of crisis in Canal 180 that you actually thought about, okay, we need to adapt or we die, or we need to change our strategy, or, do you feel threatened in some way, or do you feel that some of these tools can actually help Canal 180 and its team to go beyond what is producing at this moment?
I think since the of course we're a threat since the beginning, but and for a reason that we are starting a television channel where television was dead. So, but that's part of the exercise that we try to do, and to have the platform to question and go after what the art and what can give us. So all this ethical discussion about technology is very interesting for us. We are mainly focused on music festivals, on architects, design, and so on, but we try to do it in a way that takes advantage of the platforms, of the way that people consume it on social media, or how is designed the application. So we enjoy all of that. And as I was saying before, at some point, we really start to focus less on the platforms because they were getting mature and they were not changing so much. And I think we took it to the limit even to communicate a new lineup of a music festival, we would do it in a very subservice way to make it that pertinent for that kind of niche audience that we wanted to reach. So we tried everything, but once all these new digital technologies that we use every day were getting to a mature phase, what we felt was to change and try to understand what's going on beneath, and try to listen to thinkers about this, what really is going on, and try to have their more human perspective about it. And
almost a counterculture.
so we changed a little bit. We stopped just looking at art form and the art experimentation with technology, and we look at how people that were more criticizing what's going on, and we're not getting told about what was the advantage that was taken with data and so on. But I can, for the entrepreneurs, that's an interesting parallel. I think we focus on communication as a media platform, but the companies that really focus on technology in this sense, in the data, they some of them, they're really striving. Things like copywriting, the companies that really went on the tech to understand what kind of songs were being used on music videos, and they were connected to the labels, and then they could very fairly distribute the royalties for the artist, and to charge people or monetize that content that was using some music, and get that money to the artists. And the companies that focus on technology, they were balancing, they were getting money, and they were doing some useful thing for the environment, the artistic environment. And I think with AI, and it's a little bit the same. It's a major strike in the US for the screenwriters and the actors. They are afraid of the future advantage that what AI can do without the human effort, and they getting paid for it. So that's a lot of interesting discussions. But as a media platform, it's the technology is not so critical for our business. Our business model is content production. So I think we're still surfing this wave of an infinite amount of video.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure.
we're good. Good enough.
Yeah, Andre, what do you want to add to this? Two contributions from Elena and
well, I'm a little bit less skeptical and a little bit more positive, because in general, I don't feel that people should be threatened by tools. It depends on how you use them and how they've been used, and I completely agree
with a tool is still a fool.
Yeah, exactly. But you'll find a lot of fools, and that's why I completely agree with Elena. We need to have better data sets. We need to understand what are the data sets behind ChatGPT, for instance, instead of going just deep diving into it and thinking it can solve all the world's problems, because it can't, and we don't know what's behind it for sure to make that kind of assessment. And at the same time, I think we kind of keep forgetting how creativity works in that sense. With new tools comes new ways to create new content, So if Picasso was afraid of photography, he wouldn't go for cubism, and that's exactly what he said. Realistic painter doesn't make any more sense because you can take pictures, and so that's how cubism and all that came to be. And I think that's what's starting to happen. At the same time, I believe that artists are already leading the civic movements about raising awareness around these new tools. And the first thing that comes to mind is the Have I Been Trained project that's being led by Matt Dryhurst and Holly Herden. They are both artists who developed an AI model for music, which is called Spawn. And they have been raising this. They've been posing these questions on how these big models are being used, and if they have been ethically used. Who have been training them? Are the people who are training them actually getting paid for the content they're providing to them? Because we cannot forget, without data, none of these AI models would work. So they need artists. They need creatives to to actually create these data sets, and Midjourney needs images to create new images, you know. So in general, I don't think that artists should be threatened only if they are not really that creative, you know. So that's actually problematic. But if you are creative, you can find ways to use these tools and maybe
Yeah.
create new tools and new forms of communication. And so yeah, I believe that we are actually in an interesting phase, and things are aligning now, and people are looking into creativity in different ways, and we see this throughout Europe. Even the Institute of Technology is now looking into culture and creativity for ways to bring creative minds into technology. We are seeing architecture starting to create spaces for the metaverse, for instance, which makes no sense, but it actually makes some sense because people are spending more time in this virtual context. So they need the spaces to be more functional for how they use them. You know, so we're seeing this cross pollination of thoughts. And again, we cannot just overlook artists and just think of them as those poor fellows who don't know what they're doing.
No,
You know,
a paternalistic approach doesn't work at all. Let me just ask about how we are in terms of time, because we started a little bit later than we planned, and I'm a little bit lost. Can we have okay, because I would like to pass on the mic also for the audience to make some questions. Okay. Okay, cool. So because I would like to also to pick on these last comments of André, and to pick up some point, and then I pass on to you, because I imagine that some of you can have some questions for Elena and André and João. But yeah, still about this transition, because this is again kind of a revolution, a kind of a change of paradigm that people need to adapt in a way, artists as well, creatives as well. And in any kind of transition, we go through a phase of denial. It's like psychology, okay? So it's denial, and we get a little confused, and we start to be suspicious. And when we realize that maybe it's not that bad, and maybe that's like entropy, and then we need to move on and get on board, some of us can feel a little bit overwhelmed about what already so much passed, and the quantity of tools that already exist, and the technology, the advances of technology in certain ways. So sometimes we are talking in a bubble, like a cycle of people that are already very informed about it. But when we get a little bit out of that bubble, sometimes people really feel threatened, not because they are less good artists than anyone else, but they feel a little bit outdated on the state of art of these tools. So my question is for all you three here is, how can we also fill the gap on it? Not just about the ethics, because I think that this is really an important part of our education and our reskilling, but how can we upskill ourselves and our artistic class, let's say the creative class, to be part of it, to create on this wave of technology, and innovate in it. Can you, maybe we do a round, or maybe which of you wants to have this also as a kind of last words to other entrepreneurs that might be listening, and other creatives that want to get on board on this, because there's a lot of opportunities here, right?
I can start if you guys don't mind, and I'll just shut myself after and we're done with it. But I will stick with, I think the topic of this conversation kind of starts the question by itself. Creating context for cross innovation is interesting. When you bring different people to engage with each other, it's a good way. It's what happened with Elena, for instance, and I believe that's a really interesting example. And fortunately, I believe that's already happening a little bit throughout Europe. We've been seeing it. And again, I will say it's the EIT, the European Institute of Technology, Innovation and Technology. it has been doing an interesting work by launching this new kick for culture and creativity, despite being the Institute for Innovation and Technology. It's still looking towards what creatives can add to this. The University of Porto is leading a strategic topic group in partnership with them about how broad can architecture, for instance, be in terms of approach, how it can design spaces in mixed realities, in virtual realities, and in reality, you know. And this kind of approach means that there is space for things still to happen. And I believe that's what we should try to do more often, you know, maybe trying to bring engineers with some weird pianists from free jazz context to see what they come up together. I know that Volvo tried something similar to upgrade their factory floor, where they invited a classical trained musician to go over their processes. You know, I don't know if it worked. Hopefully so, because it would render my argument useless. But having this kind of approach is important, even if just only for the matter of empathy. You know. I think that artists have been leading in this simple matter of generating empathy towards other people. We've been seeing it in numerous festivals. For instance, how small festivals in Portugal have been approaching the climate crisis and making, for instance, water available for free, so you cut on plastics. These are simple things that other people are overlooking, but the artists are actually considering that raising awareness for minorities and actually bringing their culture in. And again, Festival Iminente in Lisbon has been doing it with all the Lisbon diaspora, with the African diaspora. So I believe that as creatives, now if I can include myself in that group, are already doing the most important job of raising awareness and bringing these people that they are there, they exist, into the light, you know. And now I believe that the rest of society kind of needs to keep up with their pace, and not only us chasing technologies, you know. I think it needs to be up to the same pace, so things are actually add some realistic value. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Elena, do you also think that artists are ahead of the rest of the society?
I'm not an artist. I'm sorry, I'm not an artist, but I have some musician friends and some creative friends from design and publicity, and they're working intensively with these tools. And what they say is, I'm not afraid because there's so much to do. They're just a basis for what I want to do. It's like for an artist, for a painter, different colors I can test for my ideas. Or for my friend is a designer, and he says, it's a great tool to give me some inspirations, but doesn't have my touch. So I need to bring this to these tools. And I think there's a lot of gaps. And I totally agree with André saying that we need this multidisciplinary view. At least I think it's very important, but I'm biased. And I also think that having different voices, it's fundamental. So if I'm with someone from psychology, from cognition or neuroscience, from engineering, they all will bring a different perspective. And as human beings, we are holistic beings, meaning we're not just one piece, we're several parts. And the whole of it is that we are empathetic beings, social beings, communicative beings. We speak a language, we have a culture, and combining all this together with different views, I think this can be very disruptive with this new movement on artificial intelligence. And like my friend said, is another color I need to try and to test to be better. Like musicians are also trying this to improve or to have another layer. And what they say, and I totally agree, not being an artist is trying to be disruptive and creating a voice with these tools is hard. So there's tons of things to do also here. On the aspect of languages and cultures, absolutely. We need to improve on that, but I think the basis is good to do that. So I'm positive about it as well.
Thank you, Elena. I think one of the things that we conclude and been concluding for a long time, since we are talking more seriously about innovation and what can lead to innovation in any sector, is that is interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity. Is one person not just being amongst other people that are from different fields, but we all now accept that during our lifetime we need to know from several areas of knowledge. We can be specialized in one area, but we need to understand and to go in a certain way to understand more about other subjects. And I think here in this topic, we really need to force and to promote that transdisciplinarity in people and teams that are interdisciplinarity. And I guess also João also is doing that in their team. Now as we are moving to another place, I guess you have a bit more space there and you have welcoming your team, but also in mind to have more people from different fields. Also, I guess looking for also more creativity and more inputs to you know, the creative content in your team. So I think it's something transversal.
I think in the beginning there was a lot of institutions trying to get this pollination and these encounters, and this networking was really fundamental 10 or
Just about data quality and the ethics and bias, 100%. Now you mentioned in your current projects, you've been considering, and you mentioned some challenges when it comes to missing the inclusion of diversity, nationalities, and so on. How do you approach it? do you approach it by increasing the diversity within the team, for example, of developers? Or you go in for the available tools, for example, like Gen AI that helps you to generate new data?
So basically, we need, that's a very good question. There's several strategies in place, but I will tell you what we're being using concretely for some products. So basically, I'm not a native in Korean. I know some aspects, or Japanese or Chinese. So basically what you do is you bring experts on the matter and you try to grasp as much as possible their knowledge to include in the product. So we had several interviews to know what was cultural for them as natives and how would they approach native, non-native people, because it's different. They're very condescending with Westerns from what we learned. So it was a learning process as well. Basically, there's also the other scenario where you bring more nationalities to your company and then you see things differently. And I think it's the combination of both sides that really creates a rich product. We learn quite so much with the interviews with natives, with their conversations, how they see native, non-native people, and how they distinguish the communications. Just to give you an example. Another example is you have in the team people from India or from different places of Africa, and you bring them to the conversation and they say, no, this word cannot be said because in my culture, this word is very offensive, right? And you immediately say, oh, I didn't think about that. So bringing this, like João and Pedro, João and André were saying in Oporto, you bring these voices to the product and people feel more comfortable with it. So we tested the Japanese, Korean, Chinese with clients. We tested with, for instance, with Farfetch, how they would reach out to these clients in these countries. And it's quite different, the perspective when you receive a communication, this is adapted to you. Things that we thought were a nice message, a very polite message, were very wrong for them. Like, you shouldn't use any emotions at all. Oh, I'm glad you're so happy with your product. Forget about it. All of them told us no emotions. It's very to be very emotional on a customer support email. So we didn't know as well. Just to give you an example. And there are other products like Portuguese hospitals that are hosting a lot of diaspora people, migrants and second generation people, and they're facing serious problems with communication, for instance. How you put these people communicating with hospitals, how you make them feel 100% a citizen of this country and having access to welfare and well-being and so on. So just to give you a few examples.
So in the end, our technologies are replicating our previous problems that we already have in society. So, but amplifying it for a larger and global democratization of the use of those tools. Yes.
We have another.
So you said that you had another question here, there in Lisbon, or should we ask Porto if they have?
We have one more here.
Is it on? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. So just a bit of background. I'm a PhD student in computational creativity, and I'm more interested in how do you guys feel about creative as a whole with generative AI, but more specifically, I guess, I liked a lot you guys talking about bringing the multidisciplinarity and bringing the artists, but how can we actually do that? Like, I don't know how many artists are here in the room. Okay. I saw one. How can we... Right. I mean, Andre identified as a creator, so, but how can we do that? How can we mix the communities more together and not kind of create this maybe anti-technological feeling? You know what I'm saying? Well, I guess it's more of a provocative question. I don't know if any of you want to answer. Thank you.
We know what you're saying. Yeah, sure.
Is this on? Yeah, it is. So actually, that's a good question. And I believe that we don't really have an answer for it because in general, engineers and people from technologies kind of frowned upon adding artists to their ways of working, and actually the same happens in the opposite way. So in general, what I believe it's interesting is maybe it's creating settings where that doesn't really happen, you know. So you take both out of their comfort zone and creates something that a little bit more neutral, you know. So for instance, impact in general, when you talk about impact approaches like social impact, ecological impact, you have more of a setting that it's not specifically for creativity, it's not specifically um, for technological reasons, but you have a different purpose where you can maybe bring them together and exchange approaches. So yeah, to me, it's kind of about fooling them, you know, and tricking them into working together. Usually this works really well, and it's an interesting approach. Just because in general you need to be out of your comfort zone, so you just don't just don't fall back into your old biases. And also it's about finding the right people who are willing to do it, you know. And again, we need to also keep in mind that some artists are already, or engineers are already doing both, you know. So such as yourself, maybe you can consider yourself a creative, so you can be a nice enabler and a good moderator for this setting to happen. There's people, for instance, like André Gonçalves, that is there in Lisbon developing synthesizers, like modular synthesizers. He's an engineer, you know, but he's also a musician working with free jazz people and so forth. So it would be also interesting to work together. And the same goes for other artists who have been working with researchers closely. Here in Porto, we have people like Diogo Tudela, Jonathan Saldanha, Joana Pestana, who are already in this mix of research art, you know. But also be wary about research art because it can be really hard to understand sometimes. But yeah, it's about creating settings where people are out of their comfort zones and don't just feel tempted to fall back into their old biases. I think that's the most important thing.
Let me just add something. I see I'm not guest speaker and moderator, but I think, again, the transdisciplinarity should be something that is promoted even by our educational institutions, because so far we had our degrees and we specialized, we were taught to specialize in something. And then in our adult lives, some of us were curious or were failing in those areas, and crossing the frontiers from to another area of knowledge. But I guess that if we had the opportunity of exploring further and more areas of knowledge in our own educational path, I think that will be happening more naturally and more frequently at this moment. So it's something that if we start to do now in our educational institutionals, maybe later we will see difference in the number of people that are already like with the one foot in one side and another foot in another area of expertise. Right. I think yes.
Just to add a really small comment on that. When I started working with engineers, it was extremely difficult. I didn't understand why they need me, and they didn't understand why I was needed, basically. So it was a question of setting expectations right. And it was extremely hard, as you can imagine, in the beginning. And multidisciplinary is a very, very fancy word, but it's very hard to put in practice if you're not flexible enough, if you're not willing to have the courtesy to listen to other people. And sometimes you need to forget, I know this in grammar is like that, or is like in art is like that. You need to sometimes negotiate what you're up to talk to other people. But I'm very positive about the moment. Having these events like we have today, or several others, and even universities are bringing a lot of multidisciplinary PhDs like yourself.
Mm-hmm. True.
Any questions? Any questions
Hi.
in Port?
Yes.
Yes, you have one.
Oh, okay. I'm a software developer. I work remotely for a German company, but I'm a co-founder of a startup. It's in Brazil, a startup. And recently I watched a podcast with Sam Altman, the CEO of ChatGPT, of OpenAI. And he was trying to be very optimistic. And I'm also a very optimistic person. I'm an entrepreneur. You know, we are all very optimistic. But analyzing what he said, I couldn't be optimistic because I heard him saying things like, large language models are going to make knowledge very cheap. And when you say that, you can think of very nice things, but I think that the most obvious things is that all the people that have good jobs are not going to be needed anymore. You know, so I feel that sometimes this is not just an entrepreneurial thing. It's more a political thing that we need to actually gather. And I, unfortunately, it's very common to hear from entrepreneurs that they don't like politics. But I think that this is a moment that there's no way to run away from politics. We're going to have to discuss a lot about politics. I feel that way. And I'd like to know if Elena and all of you feel the same. Can we run away from politics from this point, or is it more political? Do you agree with what I'm saying or not? Thank you.
I just want to say something really quick. It's obviously that Sam Altman is an interested party in his own product, you know, so obviously he would talk the best things about his own large language model. So we need to keep that in mind when he says things like ChatGPT will render medical doctors useless in the next few years, which is a little bit silly or extremely silly, and at the same time it's him selling his product, you know, so we need to keep that in mind. And the other thing is anything about human activities and human relations is about politics, you know. So yeah, obviously I kind of agree with you. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. There's no way to avoid politics. This is about governance of AI, and it needs to be governed. So Sam Altman is talking about, as a marketeer, is selling his product. Obviously, you will not talk badly of his product, but he has intensive disclaimers saying, careful, ChatGPT can create fake news, can be used for misusage on creating really fake news and hate speech and so on. So he's quite aware of the problems he have inside. But as a marketeer, he knows he has a product that is valuable at the moment and he needs to sell it. That's basically it. And he's using the same strategy as Roman generals were using in few centuries ago. Like, this is great, this is very useful, but I'm a general and I want this. So it's basically the same strategy as the Romans used. Very poor marketing, I would say, but it was very efficient. About the governance, there's several initiatives. The problem is they're very scattered at the moment. There's some scares about the European AI Act, but we cannot avoid having governance. This is impacting already everyone's life. And politics comes from Greek polis. It's about our city and us involved in the city as citizens. So it's more than ever about citizens. And it needs to be us. So I hope we have a clear strategy. There's a group of experts being put in place, Portugal has a name for it, on the United Nations to try to put this as much as possible. There's also other global initiatives like the Global Partnership for Artificial Intelligence. They already have 30 members. And I think this is the way to go. And not seeing governance as a way to block progress, but to assist citizens in nice decisions and mitigating risks mostly.
Thank you, Elena. And I think they already organization is already making some signs. Maybe we can continue Porto and Lisbon after this moment to get social, drink a glass of whatever, and socialize a bit while we seize the ones that still have some time to stay around. Can I also do a small disclaimer?
Yeah, please,
Very
Tanya.
short.
Yeah.
I don't know if you will be offended if I say that at CRU we are also organizing a project called DG Art that might interest some of this audience. That is 3 weeks. We already have one in the past. We have 3 more weeks of discussions and panel discussions about all things digital and creative. So I invite you all to have a sneak peek. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay, Tanya, thank you. I
Thank
was a
you.
bit worried with the no-show of Francisco from Mulabs, but in the end, the panel was great and the talk was super interesting. So I ask you a round of applause for it. And for the last words, we will have Above and Beyond Community Hangout in the last Wednesday of the next month. So show up and let's go for a drink. Indy, let's go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
It was great talking to Oporto today. Thank you. Really nice discussions.
Thank you, Elena. Really nice to meet you.